I wanted to give a reaction on the recent headlines released this week regarding the U.S. government inaccurately reporting how many employed people there were as of earlier this year, specifically March 2024. This is pretty fascinating news because, you know, there's been sort of this feeling that everyone's had that the government or the media is always telling us that the economy is, resilient and it's smooth, but it kind of contradicts how a lot of U.S. citizens feel because all of us feel like our money isn't getting us that far and everything is more expensive. Especially, personally, the videos that I've been making, you could see that I've had a rocky year in my career, and I've been definitely feeling this feeling of a career dread or uncertainty within the job market. And whenever I read that, there were jobs being constantly added and companies were still hiring, I felt like I was being gaslit by the media or just in general the information I was reading. But what was fascinating was whenever I would go on YouTube, I would see people making videos similar to myself of them getting laid off, starting a new life, starting YouTube, and it's like there was a huge influx of people talking about their struggles with the current job market. So it was sort of people were saying that they were getting laid off, that they were struggling financially, but the media and the U.S. government's telling you that the economy is fine, and people are just confused, and that's why the term silent recession was a big term being used this year. But because I've talked about this stuff in the past, I wanted to cover this specific news that broke out this week because I do feel like it's relevant not only to myself but to this channel. So I'm just gonna read this article real quick, published on Yahoo Finance on August 21st, which was basically about 6 days ago as of filming this. So this is very recent news. So I'm just going to read this real quick and give bullet points and my reaction. So let's go. So the U.S. economy employed 818,000 fewer people than originally reported as of March 2024, showing the labor market may have been cooling long before initially thought. The revisions are a yearly practice from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Final revised numbers are expected to be released early next year. The report released Wednesday morning showed the largest downward revisions to the professional and business service industry, where employment was revised down by 358,000 during the period. Leisure and hospitality saw the second largest downward revision of 150,000. The report moves down the monthly job additions seen in the U.S. economy over the time period to 174K to 242K. And this is a quote by an expert or inflation insight president, and he says, despite this big downward revision, that's still a very healthy growth rate in terms of the monthly jobs added to the economy. Sure, buddy. But anyways, this is a really cool graph that they added. It shows the changes in employment throughout since 2018. So in 2019, I think this accounts for the pandemic. So that's why this is going negative 500K. And then it slowly improves as the pandemic sort of settles down. And then in 2022, that's when a lot of tech jobs were hiring. And it makes sense because this is when I got my job offer for the last job that I actually liked. And then, as you could see, this is where all the tech layoffs happened. And this is funny because this towards the end here, this is sort of where I got laid off from a job I really liked. And then 2024 is basically when all the shenanigans happen, and that's when I started filming my YouTube channel. So my life, it's crazy because viewing this chart and reflecting on the events that happened in my life, it's crazy how there's a parallel to the job market and to the events that happened in my life. And seeing this makes me realize, the people that make the decisions in the country and the way the job market fluctuates and changes really is a butterfly effect, and it affects you directly. When I was a kid, in 2008, that was the recession, right? I had no idea what was going on. I was playing with toys and my PS2. I was looking at the sky. I wasn't working. I was a kid, so I had no idea what was going on. But now that I'm older, seeing how the economy actually affects what I'm able to do, the opportunities I have, is really fascinating. And that's why I wanted to cover this, because this channel does revolve around my career a lot of the time. So I just wanted to give my reaction and reflect a little bit on that. But going back to the article, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's just try to find the main points, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So, a weak July jobs report helped tilt the focus toward the slowing labor market. The report showed the second weakest monthly job addition since 2020 and the highest unemployment rate, 4.3%, in nearly 3 years. Alright, so let's keep reading. More recent updates on the labor market, namely weekly unemployment filings, have reflected layoffs staying relatively low, prompting economists to argue a slowing labor market is not headed for an outright downturn. So what's fascinating is whenever I read an article like this, there's always like an expert economist or something that tries to beat around the bush or sugarcoat what's going on. But but it's like, what's the point? Like, just say that there's not nearly as much jobs and employment that we initially said, and that's not a good thing. We want more jobs and want more employment, and they use terms that kind of are like politically correct terms. Like they say, where is it? They say like a cooling job market. I know I've read it. Okay, so they still say like a slowing labor market, but the term I've heard a lot is job market cooling. Cooling. Think about it. They use the term cooling, and that doesn't sound bad. It's like, oh, it's cooling down. It's like when you're hot and you're dehydrated in the desert. What do you want to do to feel better? To feel better, you want to drink water to cool down in the shade. Like, oh, the job market's cooling? That sounds pretty good, right? No, the job market is fucking drying. That's what they should say. Like, stop using these politically correct terms. The job market's drying. People are going to gig work. Okay, and also, whenever I read that someone says the job market, companies are still hiring even though there's a slowing down of the labor market or cooling down. But what kind of growth is that? Because let's just say a company, right? Let's just say Company A. Company A, 2 years ago, 2022, laid off 6 people. All right, Company A laid off 6 people. But you know what? That doesn't matter. Good news. 2024, they're hiring 3 people. So technically, they're hiring. Jobs are hiring this year, so it's not bad, right? But the jobs that are hiring, how many people did they lay off like 2 years ago? Are they hiring as many people that they laid off? Or if you look at it long term, that they ultimately lay off 6 people and they're replacing 6 people with 2, right? Just because a job is hiring doesn't mean they're growing. Okay? If I had a 780 credit score in 2018, and then I had a 500 credit score in 2020, but I have a 600 credit score now, is that good? Well, it's good if you compare it to when I had 500, but if you compare it to when I had like 780, then that's terrible. That's a loss. That graph is going down. So it's like, what kind of data points are you leaving out? Anyways, that's my little rant. That's sort of my analogy for all of this reporting, is that, the fact that they're saying, oh, this isn't bad news, there's still jobs and we're still slowly growing. It's like, no, you guys lied. There was less. You reported 800K more than you initially should have, right? Like, that's nearly a million people, employed people, basically. But anyways, I have bullet points I want to go over. So before I just start going on a rant, I'm gonna just go over the news report bullet points. So the main one is that the U.S. economy employed 818,000 fewer people than initially reported as of March 2024. This is the largest downward revisions. Oh, sorry. The largest downward revisions were in the professional and business services, which amounts to about 500,000 people. And what else? So yeah, the narrative that the economists are saying is that, while this revision is significant, it doesn't really mean that we're going into a recession or that the economy is going in shambles, and that there's no worry to be had. But I don't know. I think that's more subjective. Anyways, that's the article. I want to focus it more on me now. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly cover this. Again, I'm not a professional journalist, but I just thought it was fascinating because it's like this confirms, what not only what I felt within the past year, but what a lot of people felt about, that the job market was dry, not cool, dry, and that, that there were jobs that weren't paying as much. People were going into gig work. They were driving for Uber. They were doing food delivery and just contract work, which is probably the reason why some of the reports are saying that people are finding work. Unemployment isn't as down as it was before, but they're not accounting for the people that got laid off from their full-time, full benefits 9-to-5 salary job to instead get a part-time job at a fast food place and then doing Lyft or food delivery on the side, Postmates. Like, you think one person working one job is now making less money, but they have to work 2 gig jobs and a shitty part-time job. So they have 3 jobs, but they're making less money and less stability. But now on paper, when you do these reports, the government says, oh, on paper, people are working and the labor market is resilient. But I feel like they're leaving out a lot of data points. They're leaving out a lot of stories that aren't being heard. And when you look at the numbers, it doesn't really reflect reality that well. And that's just my opinion. That's how I feel. Because on paper, I'm doing well. On paper, I'm employed. On paper, I should be doing well, but the reality, the actual story is that it's not. That's not the case at all, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. So stop looking at the numbers, look at the stories, look at how people feel, because sometimes the numbers aren't really that accurate, as we could see in the numbers reported by the government when we had the job market report. But anyways. I gotta learn how to navigate my videos better. Look, it's like a fucking earthquake. Alright, anyways. If this video gave you a headache, I apologize. I'm gonna make more content in the future. Not only about my career and stuff, but just about my life and about my hobbies. I'll probably make some more music. I don't know. But anyways, see you in the next video.